Alright, so you guys seem to like these mobile jobbies. I drive this on the daily when it's too cold to drive the bike. It is definitely too cold today to bring the bike. Look at all that water. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna get down to the TA Petro. We got a driver, came all the way from Massachusetts, and we need to get a turbo replaced. So we're gonna go diag that first, grab some serial numbers. Could be an actuator, could be a turbo. Generally we recommend replacing both because you get a really good warranty. Got the snap-on box, so we're gonna get down there, take care of it. I'm not sure how much of it today I'm gonna film. Otis is still for sale if you guys like it. The reason I've been calling him Otis is because he looks like Otis from back at the barnyard. It kind of reminds you of his face. Is that not? Looks like Otis. Reminds me of him from Barnyard. So, she's been making a killer daily driver. And then I'm gonna get this guy pulled out. We'll get you guys a nice cold start because I haven't gotten a cold start on this thing in a hot minute. Shitload louder than Otis. There we go, there's the chop. If you guys are wondering when this thing's getting a manual swap, once this thing sells, we're gonna be putting about 800 to 1,000 bucks in the bike. And then we're also gonna be going and getting I have an order to place, I'm just not placing it until this is sold. But we're just waiting on the drive shaft to come back from Mashar, and then I gotta spend the 500 bucks on all the parts, and then we're gonna be throwing the manual swap in this, and then this transmission will be for sale. Unfortunately, the torque converter's bad, but the transmission still is fine, so we're just gonna sell the trans, throw the torque converter away. I don't remember that being there, but whatever. You know, a lot of people be hating on Otis, but this truck has come a long way since I got it back from the repo. We went through and fixed as much of the shit on it as possible. It's still not a perfect truck, but it's a 10K or 9K truck. But if you want a perfect truck, I mean, you're gonna go spend 20, 25 grand. So for a truck with some minor issues, like it runs, drives, gets you everywhere it needs to go. Grab that before it hits the camper. It fires up every single morning. The roof doesn't leak. She's comfortable. The heat works. She has some minor things. Needs an e-brake. Needs a cab mount, needs a horn, needs the AC charged, and then there was one other thing, and I always forget the last thing. It definitely needs taillights. Those are coming. But look at that. Goes right into gear. I'm just going to pull it into the spot. Back into Betty White. Goes right into gear. Power steering all works. She's a little off on so neutral is reverse, and then 2 is drive. And if you try to put it in drive, like it actually throws it in, it's neutral, so. That's really the only thing wrong with it. Oh, and the radio. The radio was the 5th thing, so I'm gonna leave the key in it. But Otis is a good truck. You know, make a good little grandpa truck. It's coming together pretty nicely. We are sitting at this long red light, and we're here. It's only a little bit up the road. It's like 15 minutes from the house, so it's like total 30-minute round trip. We're gonna have to go to Harrisburg to grab the parts whenever they do come in. I do gotta grab an engine serial number and whatnot, so I'm gonna try to film what I can for the Diag. I'm probably not gonna film too much with it, but I'm gonna basically get to the point and go from there, because it kind of does take up some time when you have to film. So it's like if I can get like 5 minutes of recording in on, you know, a job like this, you know, it's kind of nice. Get you guys a little bit of a video and show you guys what we did today, but we're gonna get in here and start diagnosing. Where we're at so far, the intercooler boot was definitely leaking, but we do have some other issues like EGR leak. We're trying to decide, because there was an intermittent code with the, he has boost for about 5 minutes until he starts driving it. And then there's no boost after about 5 minutes of driving. Like, it runs great for 5 minutes and then it stops running great. So definitely think it's something with that actuator. The turbo seems fine, but again, we always recommend replacing both because if one fails, one's not far behind. And also you get a really good warranty, but it's one of those like, look at that. Exhaust manifold bolt loosened up. You guys can see that. Oh, look at that. Exhaust manifold leak. It looks like, you guys can see there, it was rubbing on that. But it doesn't look like it broke, but we're definitely going to replace it. Don't know if it's leaking yet. Alright, so here's where we're at. We are doing the turbo, we are doing that. So everything's getting pulled off. We're able to wiggle the shaft play. Another mechanic was like, yeah, that's too much. So it's like, all right, well. So we're gonna be replacing pretty much everything. All of this has gotta come off. This is gonna be a fun ordeal. Doing oil change, air filter, because of the new turbo. All of this we're gonna be fixing, and I'll let you guys know where we're at when we get there. All right, here's where we're sitting. We just got all of these parts off. This has been a fun ordeal, and a lot more coolant than I thought was gonna come out. But you guys can see, this is where we're at. So now we can start getting the EGR itself popped off. So I gotta get the bolts back there, the bolts up front, and then this should pop up out of the way. So 1, 2. This thing needs a manifold more than likely. I'm gonna do what I can, but I'm pretty sure this thing's gonna need a manifold. There's some slop, but got lucky with the bottom one. That one's just turning out by hand, or it was. I got the front EGR bolts off, and now I gotta get the back ones. I gotta get that one back there and that one back there. Haven't quite figured out how I'm gonna do it yet, but I'm gonna try to get this out first. There we go, we got one. Cool. All right, just kidding, guys. We're actually doing a parking lot delete. No, I'm kidding, but so we're gonna get these gaskets as well. Rather than going and buying new bolts, I do have, I have plenty of these in stock. I'm gonna get these cleaned up and whatnot, and I'm gonna see if that's reusable. If not, we'll have to get another manifold. I'm hoping that we don't. I understand, guys, not everybody is made of money. You know, I can recommend things, but sometimes people just can't justify or can't afford. Not everybody's made of money, guys. This is a $4,000 job right here. Doing the turbo alone is like $2,300, $2,200 plus parts, labor, everything. I mean, this is a good 12-hour job, just to let you guys know. And then also on top of that, the boot, that clamp right there, I'll show you guys when I get down here. This piece alone right here, this is a $417 part. So that, got the EGR valve off. So I'm gonna start putting all the parts, all the bolts back with this. You guys can see here. Pretty sure this, I gotta figure out back where that went, but you guys get the point. So definitely a long, drawn out process. So when you're doing these turbos, usually you can get at the bolts for the drain from the side. I always pull the front cover because with the actuator in the way, it's kind of a pain in the ass, and you can't get it from the bottom because there's that in the way. So I always do it this way. This turbo is getting replaced anyway, so it really doesn't matter. And then get your 10mm wrench right underneath there, and then you're good to go. And then we're gonna take off the coolant line from the block. So we're gonna pull it all as one assembly and then just pull the turbo out of itself and then get the exhaust and then, you know, the sensors and all that. We're just gonna start getting the gasket surfaces cleaned up. We'll get the manifold cleaned up, and then he's gonna start getting stuff on order. We're gonna be doing the oil change, coolant change, no, not coolant change, sorry, we're gonna add coolant, but oil change and filter, just right there. Makes sense to do it now while it's out. And then we're gonna try to get the manifold on today if they can deliver it. But yeah, we're gonna get all that cleaned up right there, and I'll let you know what it looks like when we're done. Manifold's all cleaned up. We're gonna be waiting for parts for about 20 minutes now. So we're gonna get this whole thing back on. We're gonna start doing assembly. We're gonna try to get everything back together today, minus we are gonna be missing a turbo today, but everything else will be back together today. All right, here's where we are at. You guys can see I decided to pull that off. We're gonna replace the gasket
because it looks like there's a little bit of soot coming out through there. I was thinking it was back before here, but I am not sure. It didn't come with a gasket in the kit. So, yeah, we're gonna get it all cleaned up, throw them back together. Just going back together slightly. I got that gasket replaced, but I think it's coming from this guy here. So I'm gonna throw the throttle valve back on, and we got a glove in the drain down there for when I was cleaning. And slow and steady, she's coming back together. Trying to put it together as nicely as I can. Take your time, make sure she's all good. We're gonna call it at about 4:45. We're gonna start cleaning everything up, and then we'll finish it up tomorrow. So we got it about 90% complete. We're just waiting on a turbo at this point. So we're gonna head home, dirty, so I'm gonna go get changed, get into the gym outfit, and then we are gonna go grab the motorcycle, and we're gonna drive that tonight. All right, turbo has been secured, HE300 VG. There's about where we left off yesterday. We left a nice open hole down there. Everything's torqued down. And now we're gonna start getting everything thrown back together. But I didn't want to do too much yesterday, because if I threw it all back together and then I gotta tear it back apart to put this turbo on. But here she is. So we're gonna get this thing started, checked. We're gonna pre-lube it. Looks pretty good. So without boring you guys, that's, like I said, that's where we left off. Now I gotta, oh, this is just sitting here, by the way. Pull that back out. That's where we left off. So that shouldn't be too bad. I got a rag down there in the oil galley, but hopefully she goes back together pretty easily, because I am not in the mood to fight today. I got about 2 hours to do this, and then we should be done with it tomorrow if I don't get it done today, because I got to do the oil change yet. We did change the filter a while it's easy, because if you don't do the filter now, you can see it's a new filter. You got to pull it out through here, which is kind of a pain in the ass. So I'll start, turbo is next. And once the turbo's on, we can start throwing all the lines back on. And then we'll do the oil change. We got a new air filter already installed, and then we just need coolant. If we weren't waiting on parts, I was gonna put these on the second gen today. These finally came literally yesterday, last night, but I didn't feel like doing these. So all the paperwork's here for everything that we spent. We do also have this came. So this was like $417 from the dealership, and we're replacing that because the one side got kind of attacked. This side here got attacked by the air filter. So nice new parts, everything going on. He should have a problem-free truck for a hot minute. Start pulling this apart. I got to get the intake side off so that we can access the drain bolts right there. I just didn't see it. So nice drain gasket. And we're gonna get everything laid out, because we're gonna need 4 of these, and then the fitting. So all the parts are laying on the passenger floorboard. Zip ties. I'm gonna get everything pulled out. Now we'll get it all thrown back together. Turns out I missed a couple. So it does come with 4, a couple of O-rings. Pretty sure that one goes to the fitting, but let's get her all back together. And it comes with 4 new nuts. So we're gonna throw all of this new stuff back on, and then zip tie through here. For this stuff, day 2, here's where we are at. Mind you, I've only been working on this for about an hour, hour and a half-ish. So we got the turbo on. The drain bolts are fighting me, and I'm kind of getting frustrated with it. So I'm just gonna call it. I was gonna be done in like a half hour, 45 minutes anyway, but the drain bolts are just an absolute fight on these trucks, especially when you have to bend the drain out of the way. So I got one bolt in, and the second bolt's lined up, and it will not go in there for the life of me. And I'm not gonna sit here and fight it today. I'm gonna come back tomorrow morning. We're gonna have this truck done by probably about 1 or 2 in the afternoon tomorrow, and then she's good to drive. But yeah, there's where she's at. Now we're gonna get cleaned up. That literally took like 5 minutes, if that. But there's the new taillights I've been waiting for forever. I had to do this today too to get the new pictures, but yeah, they look a lot better. It's amazing. A set of taillights, a set of mirrors, some fender flares, and some wheels and tires. See the EGR valve doing its thing. Throw some coolant at her. Make sure that drain's not leaking. You do all this work and then she goes into a regen. You guys see it smoking. We spilled a little bit of coolant. Look at that. Thanks, EPA. That smells terrible. All good, we're gonna put that back in and he's gonna drive it. All right, so we threw it all back together and unfortunately the mass airflow sensor is bad. We went through and tested it. Thing was putting out like 190,000 ohms of resistance. The voltage at idle was like 3.7 and there was a lot of other things we tested on it, but it tested bad. So we need to get it replaced, so that's what we're gonna do. So we are still out here fighting this truck for a MAP sensor code. We got a MAF sensor, M-A-F, and unfortunately it's not, like this one's reading the exact same as the other one. We're getting 3.7 volts at idle and we are getting almost 200,000 ohms. So I don't know what the deal is. It's one of those we gotta sit down and spend a good day trying to diag the rest of it. But all the other issues are fixed. We just have one more issue to fix. This came in with like 5 codes. Well, she runs good now. We just got 30 pounds out of it. Giving her a good test drive again. Had to take her on the highway. So we just sat and let this thing go through a regen. It took about an hour and a half. And I cleaned the MAP sensor now. So it had a new MAP sensor. The other one was testing bad. We put the old one back in it, cleaned the actual MAP sensor that's behind the turbo there. Initially putting the turbo on, it had a bunch of turbo codes before, so we fixed that issue first. But unfortunately, it was, you know, some acceleration issues that were intermittent. So I'm hoping that that's taken care of now, but that's a light there for some reason. Now she's running good. I think that's what it might have been. Like, he wasn't able to get, look at that. We did get 32 PSI. Oh, you guys, I didn't film that. That guy about, what? Goodness gracious, my guy. But she's running good now. I'm gonna move away from this guy because he's a little dangerous, but you guys can see it. It is building boost. Everything is good. I'm gonna let him drive it, see how he likes it, and hopefully this fixes the issue and I can go home because it is now almost 10 o'clock. This is how dedicated I was because I want to make sure this guy gets everything taken care of and he can go home because I know how it feels to be on the side of the road or like anywhere and being there. So I think this came in on Monday. We got everything torn apart Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday the parts came in late, and then today we got everything back together. So she's running pretty good now. We've just been fighting some electrical problems today, so let's get it back and fingers crossed this thing stays running good. Look at me chilling at a truck stop 15 minutes from my house, protecting the trailer. Hopefully all is good. He's going to drive it now, but I want to make sure he puts it through his paces and make sure it drives good. Codes have been all over the place, like randomly, like it'll throw random ones here and there, but we just get it to go through its regen and whatnot. So shit runs good. It didn't before though. It definitely didn't. You could feel that. All right, she's all good. Get her hooked up, find a load. I get to finally leave the pet shop. I'm gonna close this video out with a cold start of Otis. Otis needs a good cold start. Make sure I left the key in here. There it is. See if Otis starts. It's been hot and cold all day. Otis has been sitting for a while. Oh, Otis, you reliable turd. I really wish I could keep this truck, but unfortunately, it's just not gonna work. I can't afford it. Tail lights work, everything works. We got one LED. Get old Otis out of the way. Ugh. Otis, I will be honest, is a lot more fun to drive than that one, than Bertha, for obvious reasons. Like, this thing's just immediate. The second you hit the throttle, and then it stops. Whereas, if you hit the throttle on this, because I need injectors, but it doesn't really affect anything, other than, like, if I come over here, watch this. She needs injectors. But I will say that on the outside, this truck does sound better. Let's see if I back into Otis. I'm so glad that's over. I got 3 gallons of coolant, a couple gallons of oil. I'm gonna make sure that that oil isn't leaking. It's all used oil. Probably dump that in Otis. Probably reuse the coolant in this truck. But that truck really threw me for a loop because it came in with actuator codes, exhaust manifold leaking, just a bunch of different stuff. So we put a turbo on it. That was another call. Turbo, actuator, bunch of different things. Fixed the EGR valve leak, fixed the exhaust manifold leak, broken bolts, needed a map sensor cleaning, and it needed a good regen. But that's it. I'm gonna leave Bertha here, make sure I got everything out. If you guys need mobile repair or really any diesel work on the Cummins in central Pennsylvania or surrounding states, hit your boy up. Take my Popeyes. I know I haven't eaten fast food in so long, but I was so hungry I just had to get Popeyes. Appreciate you guys for sticking around. I'm gonna head home. It's time for bed, and we'll throw out the invoice in the morning. There's show in there. All of that. You just got some of it. Look at all that. Of course I go and put it right on the crack, but there's the grid heater. There's no real way to clean that without pulling that whole plate unless you get it all down into the engine, or a vacuum. This valve cleaned out as well. All of that. It's nasty. This is where we're at. This functions. All that cleaned out for the most part. Still gross, but looking in there. Yeah, let's see if I can. Yeah, it functions, but could do it a little bit better. Hopefully try to find a vacuum for that shit. Quick. Looks a lot cleaner than it did. So you guys can see all of that stuff. So the goal is don't idle it. We're gonna let it drive. See if he has power. See if it gets rid of the code. Because that map sensor yesterday, after cleaning it, it fixed all of the problems for a hot minute. Then he idled overnight, which, if you're, I get it. You want to stay comfortable in this heat. I don't blame him one bit, but unfortunately it causes issues like that. So everything's clean. See if he has the power to drive it. Hopefully it's got balls now. Again, that was 2 cans of brake clean and a can of map sensor cleaner. You can see all the shit all over the box, so we're gonna get all that out at some point too. But she runs, hopefully pretty good. He's, like I said, the goal is gonna be to get it down to Houston and the dreaded D word. That's hopefully what they're gonna do to it.